the fear that we might be able to recreate a politician saying something that they never said or doing something they never did. But there's also been vast consequences for women when it comes to things like revenge porn. It is really concerning in that if we don't have a good handle of this technology as a society, meaning both people who are using it think about it ethically and regulators who are trying to control it think about it comprehensively, it could really damage our understanding of media and our trust in media.
And reality, what happened or didn't. Karen Howe is an editor at the MIT Technology Review. Karen, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Celeste.
Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR Boston. I'm Celeste Headley.
I'm Robin Young. This is Here and Now.
Funding for Here and Now comes from WBUR Boston and Aspiration, a digital banking alternative designed for people who care about the environment. Customers can plant a tree with every swipe of their debit card to offset their carbon footprint. Aspiration.com/green.
The Department of Veteran Affairs announced that it was going to have vaccine mandates for a segment of its employees, which seemed to fly right in the face of what the administration emphasized on Friday it was not going to do, federal mandates.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
Support for our broadcast day comes from the Taupin Museum of Art, presenting Ansel Adams' composition.
I invite everyone to stand for a moment of silence or personal prayer, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Good afternoon and welcome to our meeting for July 27th, 2021. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 3 p.m. Our public hearings are held at 7 p.m. on the fourth Tuesdays of each month. Deviations from the schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV Channel 3 and will be rebroadcast on Thursday at 7 p.m. and Saturday at 4 p.m. Board of Supervisors meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County's website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Our meetings are closed captioned, so it is important for everyone to speak directly into the microphones at the podium. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend a Board of Supervisors meeting should contact our clerk to the board at 772-2005, at least 48 hours in advance. I would ask at this time that you turn off your cell phones or place them on silence. First item of our agenda is our roll call. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mrs. Hooker?
Here.
Mr. North?
Here.
Mr. Bradford?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Here. Item B is a request to postpone, to add to, or change the order of agenda items. Are there any requests of fellow board members?
No, sir.
Mr. O'Donnell.
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lubeck.
And yes, sir, I do have a request today to add a second closed meeting under item M of today's agenda. I would propose that the board go into closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. And specifically, I propose that the board discuss a pending class action suit against Monsanto, a former manufacturer and seller of polychlorinated biphenyls.
Okay, to adding that closed session, are there any objections? Okay, we'll add that. Moving on to item C is proclamations, resolution, recognitions, and awards. Item C1 today is a resolution congratulating the Glenver High School girls track team for winning the Virginia High School League Class II championship. I'm going to ask that Supervisor Hooker join me at the podium. Glenver.
So this is the resolution congratulating the Glenver High School girls track team for winning the Virginia High School League VHSL Class II championship. And I would just like to say how proud we are of you all. In a really difficult year with COVID and so many things that were difficult, you all were a bright light and continue to be. And we are so proud of the coaches that have come and really done such a marvelous job with this team, and we are proud of you. Congratulations. Coach Swanson, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you for inviting us up here to be recognized. These young ladies, all of them have worked extremely hard. They've dedicated their time, their effort, their energy to be a part of a program that honestly we kind of thought from the very beginning it may not happen, and then it did happen, and they made great strides, no pun intended, to make it the best one possible. And to come out on top is nothing short of just their hard work and their effort. And of course, Coach Wade was phenomenal with the distance girls, and just the overall coach in general. And I wish all the rest of the team could have been here, but vacations and things like that kind of took place. But thank you again for inviting us up here and recognizing these young ladies, and we appreciate that.
Excellent. Would you like to introduce? Have the clerk read the
Madam Clerk, if you
resolution?
would read the resolution for us.
Resolution congratulating the Glenver High School girls outdoor track team for winning the Virginia High School League Class II championship. Whereas athletic competitions are an important and integral part of the team curriculum at schools in Roanoke County, teaching cooperation, sportsmanship, teamwork, and athletic skill. And whereas on March 6, 2021, the Glenver High School girls swim, this is not the swim team, this is the track team. Okay, won the Class 2A team. And whereas on June 19th, 2021, the Glenver High School girls outdoor track team won the Class 2 team state championship at James Madison University. The Highlanders outscored runner-up Strasburg 76-49.5. And whereas senior Isabella Pope was a member of the 4x4 relay team that took 8th overall in the state and is also a member of the girls swim team that took first in state in both 2020 and 2021. And whereas rising sophomore Emma Pope was a member of the 4x8 relay team that took 8th overall in the state. And whereas rising sophomore Joanna Colleen, was a member of the 4x8 relay that took 8th overall in the state. And whereas rising junior Isabella Miller was a member of the 2A girls 4x1 relay team that took 9th overall in the state. And whereas rising junior Adriana Hall was 13th in the 2A state for girls 400 meter dash, was a member of the 2A girls 4x1 relay team that took 9th overall in the state, and was a member of the girls swim team that took first in 2A state in both 2020 and 2021. And whereas rising junior Brooklyn Woolline was a member of the 2A girls 4x1 relay team that took first place in 2A state. Brooklyn was in her first year of running hurdles for the Highlanders and was 10th overall in the 2A state girls 100 meter hurdles and 10th in the 2A state girls 300 meter hurdles. And whereas rising junior Ryan Harris was a member of the 2A girls 4x1 relay team that took first place in the 2A state and third place in the 2A state for girls 400 meter dash. Brooklyn is a multi-sport athlete that plays volleyball, basketball, soccer, and runs track. She was the first female at Glenver to compete in the pole vault and was 5th overall in 2A state. And whereas rising junior Kennerly Nichols was a member of the girls 4x1 relay team that took 9th place in 2A state. Kennerly is a multi-sport athlete that wrestles, plays soccer, and runs track and threw shot and discus for the Highlanders. And whereas rising senior Carly Wilkes was a member of the girls 4x4 relay team that took place in the 2A state, was a 2020-2021 Gatorade Girls Cross Country Player of the Year. Carly won first place in 2A state for girls 800 meter with a time of 2:18 and first place in 2A state for girls 1600 with a time of 4:59. She was also a member of the girls swim team that took first in 2A state in both 2020 and 2021, and a member of the girls indoor track team that took first place in 2A state this past year. And whereas rising junior Sydney Loader was a member of the girls 4x4 relay team that took first place in the 2A state, placed third in 2A state for girls high jump, first in 2A for girls 100 hurdles, and first place in 2A state for girls 300 hurdles. Sydney was also a member of the girls indoor track team that took first place in 2A state in 2021. And whereas rising senior Delaney Eller was a member of the girls 4x4 relay team that took first place in 2A state, placed 8th in 2A state for girls 800 meter, and placed 2nd in 2A state for girls 400 meter. Delaney was also a member of the girls swim team that took first place in 2A state in both 2020 and 2021, and was a member of the girls indoor track team that took first place in 2A state this past year. And whereas the team represented their school and community with great character, poise, and sportsmanship, they are a true asset to Roanoke County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia does hereby extend its sincere congratulations to the members of the Glenver High School indoor track team, and be it further that the Board of Supervisors extends its best wishes to the members of the team, the coaches, and the school in their future endeavors.
Madam Clerk, would you run through that again? Just kidding.
Is that the clock?
If you tell me how to pronounce all the names correctly.
I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, upon hearing about all those good accolades and what wonderful things that you have done, I move approval of the resolution for the Glenver High School outdoor track team.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Any comments from board members?
Yeah, I'll start over here on this side. Ladies, just a great accomplishment. Congratulations. My children have touched state championships when they were in high school, and they remember their coaches fondly. So my oldest sister is still meeting with her coach from her high school days 40 years ago. So great accomplishment for you two, and young ladies, just best of luck to you. It'll be with you forever. Just it's a great thing.
guess we're ready for pictures.
If you will get that resolution back, I'll take that, and I'll have it corrected.
Thank you. Congratulations. Moving on to item D. Item D is new business. Item D1 is a resolution authorizing and approving the Virginia Abatement Fund Settlement Allocation Memorandum of Understanding. Peter Lubeck, our county attorney. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you are aware, for several years, the County Attorney's Office has been working with outside counsel in efforts to recover costs incurred and to be incurred in abating the opioid addiction and epidemic that plagues Virginia communities. We have initiated suits against a large number of defendants. Some have filed bankruptcy proceedings, and it is anticipated that the county may receive some funds through bankruptcy plan distributions. Other defendants have not filed for bankruptcy and intend to either litigate or settle the claims. During this last year's first session of the General Assembly, the Code of Virginia was amended to create an opioid abatement authority. And pursuant to section 2.2-507.3, this authority was charged with administering funds that may flow from, quote, any settlements, judgments, verdicts, or other court orders relating to claims regarding the manufacturing, distribution, marketing, or sale of opioids, and in accordance with an agreement between the Attorney General and participating localities, end of quote. Accordingly, our counsel has engaged in negotiations with the Attorney General's office to reach such an agreement regarding the distribution of such funds. The Memorandum of Understanding will not apply to funds received through bankruptcy distributions, but it will apply to litigation or settlement distributions. And one of the main goals that has been at the foremost of our counsel has been to avoid a result similar to that of the Master Tobacco Settlement Agreement of 1998, where funds were distributed only to state governments and not to local governments. And after much back and forth, our attorneys have agreed upon a memorandum of understanding, which is before you today, with the Office of the Attorney General regarding the distribution of funds. And they have asked that the board, by resolution today, approve the MOU and authorize the county administrator to sign it. Some of the major provisions include the following. All opioid funds received will be initially divided as follows. 15% of the funds will go to participating political subdivisions, including Roanoke County. There will be no restrictions on the use of these funds. 70% will go to what is called the Virginia Opioid Abatement Share, and 15% will go to the Commonwealth of Virginia. The 70% that goes to the Opioid Abatement Share will then be further divided as follows. 15% shall be allocated to the participating political subdivisions, again, such as Roanoke County, and shall be used for approved abatement purposes. And 55% shall be allocated to the Virginia Opioid Abatement Fund to be used statewide for abatement purposes. And the question that is on the minds of most everyone is, how much money will Roanoke County get? And this question, unfortunately, cannot yet be answered, but we are moving closer to this. Very recently, on July 21st, The state attorneys general announced a $26 billion national settlement with drug maker Johnson & Johnson and 3 companies that distributed opioids. However, there is now a period of time in which states may decide whether to embrace this deal. The ultimate amount of payouts under only this settlement will hinge on how many governments agree to suspend their opioid lawsuits and accept this settlement. It is expected that this first large settlement may prompt a series of other settlements with other defendants. And we will certainly keep the board updated of progress on this front. Again, today, the only issue before the board is whether to approve this memorandum of understanding that has been negotiated between our council and the Attorney General's office. And I do recommend that the board approve the resolution. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
2 questions, Mr. Lubeck. I understand other steps have to occur, but do you have a best estimate of time frame when all of this might be entered into a final order and finally resolved? That's number 1. And then number 2, do you have any sense at all, at least in Virginia, are most counties and cities in the Commonwealth signing on to the MOU? I know everybody is looking at it now, but do you get a sense through LGA that there is pretty consistent support among other political subdivisions in the Commonwealth for this?
And yes, if I can answer the second question first. Yes, so at this point in time, I do participate in a monthly telephone call with our council and with the numerous other localities that they represent in the Commonwealth. Our council is in a unique position in that they do represent a majority of Virginia localities. And yes, it is my understanding that the majority of localities, all localities that I'm familiar with, are supportive of this memorandum of understanding. There have been opportunities for questions back and forth and for them to explain exactly how they arrived at this and the obstacles that they overcame, and essentially gaining the 30% that would come to localities. And I think most localities are quite pleased with this. The second question with regards to the time frame, I would predict that within the next few months there would be more of some understanding as to what would happen, at least with this settlement with regards to the Johnson & Johnson and the big 3 distributors. I also expect that within the next several months, we will know more about particularly the Purdue bankruptcy and the Mallinckrodt bankruptcy. Those are 2 bankruptcies that are right now being, the bankruptcy plans are being decided upon and approved, and if they are approved, then there would be distributions according to those plans. So I am hopeful that within the next several months, hopefully before December, we will have some resolution, at least of these first.
You're optimistic.
So, yes, I am optimistic.
Knowing bankruptcy court, I was thinking you might be looking at this sometime in '22.
And that may be the case, sir.
Any other questions?
One question, Mr. Lubeck, do you have any idea about what the estimate might be for Roanoke County?
And I do not. With regards to the big 3 distributors, the best estimate with regards to the Purdue bankruptcy, based on the plan as it has been proposed, and it appears that it would be approved, is that the county would receive between approximately $350,000 to $450,000, and that is one small portion of recovery that the county may receive. With regards to this larger settlement, we would receive potentially a much greater sum than that.
I do have one more follow-up question, Mr. Chair. So, Peter, did the fee for councils stay the same? It didn't?
Yes, exactly. So our fee, we do not pay, excuse me, our outside counsel any retainer fee. They simply receive a portion of recovery of what is recovered.
Okay.
So there are no upfront costs expended by the county for this representation.
Right. Okay. So in the MOU it says 25%, is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, is there a motion to adopt a resolution?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution D1, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item D2 is a resolution authorizing the County of Roanoke to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Town of Benton. for the county to support the Vinton Hotel redevelopment project. I'd like to welcome our Director of Economic Development, Jill Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we're going to get this PowerPoint presentation running. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm very happy to be with you today to present a project that's been quite a journey in the town of Vinton. The project began in 2016 when the town and the county jointly secured a hotel project evaluation with Hospitality Marketers International. We secured them to complete a hotel market feasibility study. The town and the county jointly funded this study, which determined that there is market demand in Vinton for a hotel project, given the town's highly developed commercial corridors, favorable leisure and recreation opportunities, as well as their growing central business district. The report recommended that the town attract a mid-scale, moderately priced national brand with approximately 80 rooms in a high-traffic, highly visible location with close proximity to amenities and services. 8 sites were evaluated as part of the study, with 4 emerging as the most viable options. Concept drawings were prepared to show the viability of each property, including the Vinton War Memorial, the Vinton Motor Site.
It's not changing.
Oh, it's changing here. Thank you for catching that. My apologies.
Technology, you have to love it.
How do I fix it?
Richard?
I'm just flipping away here and it's.
Oh, here comes Philip.
I thought it wasn't. Philip's got the magic touch.
Oh, they're coming out of the back room now. We're good.
Technology experts.
Should go from slideshow, right? What's going on here if it's not showing up on there?
Thank you. You do have this PowerPoint in your packets, however, we were trying to show it for the public. And there we are. This slide speaks to the field research report that we did in 2016 with the town of Vinton, as I mentioned a minute ago. This is a slide showing the report recommendations, and I believe we are now on the slide speaking to the concept drawings that we prepared to show the viability of each property. These 4 are showing the Vinton War Memorial, the Vinton Motor Site, the Bypass Road River Park property, and the South Pollard Virginia Avenue site. It was determined that the most viable property was the South Pollard Street and Virginia Avenue site, and during the next several years, the town acquired 6 parcels at this location to move the project forward. The town issued a request for proposals in 2018 and again in 2021 to attract a developer that would redevelop the 6 properties for a new hotel. We worked in partnership with the town of Vinton to jointly market the RFP. This view of the downtown business district shows the location of the property and access to the many services and amenities available within walking distance. The property also serves as a bookend to the developments along Pollard Street, with the Vineyard Station project anchoring the opposite end of the corridor. This photograph also shows the close proximity to 6 projects that the town and the county have supported over the last several years. Collectively, these investments are transforming the town's commercial business district and attracting new private investment through the redevelopment of underutilized properties. This slide shows a potential layout of the hotel with the possible closure of First Street just so that you have a perspective of that. And here are some photos that show the initial property condition, with several buildings now being demolished to pave the way for the new hotel project. The town received 2 formal proposals and accepted a development proposal from Soundview Development LLC McDevitt Company to purchase and redevelop the property for a new 90 to 120 room hotel. The project consists of 6 acres at a highly visible location at the gateway entrance to the town. The redevelopment project will significantly improve the property with an estimated investment of $12 million. Benton Council approved the sale agreement at their July 20th meeting, and the expected opening of the hotel is in 2022. The proposed uses for the property include a rooftop lounge, small meeting room, underground parking, and a food service option. The project is expected to generate up to 25 to 30 new jobs, $3.7 million in anticipated gross revenues, and $490,000 in annual tax revenues for the town and county. Annual Roanoke County tax revenues are estimated at $150,000. To make the project viable, financial assistance is required to offset extensive redevelopment costs and improve public infrastructure. The town is committed to provide a local economic development incentive grant in the amount of $888,750 to Soundview Redevelopment LLC McDevitt to redevelop the properties, provide gateway improvements and public infrastructure improvements associated with the development. This includes pedestrian accommodations such as sidewalks, street lighting, and underground utilities that will complete the corridor upgrades. The incentive will be provided in the form of a public-private partnership and performance agreement with the town, the developer, and the Economic Development Authority. These improvements will generate additional tax revenue, support the creation of new employment opportunities, and provide a highly desirable commercial use to further enhance the downtown business district. The town has requested the county participate in this project by reimbursing up to $450,000 of the net new tax revenues generated by the project and permit fees up to $30,000. The memorandum of understanding before you allows for the county to provide for the reimbursement of permit fees in the amount not to exceed $30,000 and an economic development grant in the amount equal to 3 years of new local tax revenues generated by the project to be reimbursed to the town of Benton. The total amount of the annual reimbursement grant shall not exceed $450,000 over a 3-year period. If the development generates less than the estimated due local tax revenue, then the actual grant for that year shall be less. The 3-year period will commence on January 1st, 2023, and the grant will be calculated as a reimbursement based on new tax revenues generated by the project. Therefore, the fiscal impact will be in the form of foregone revenue. In conclusion, Roanoke County's participation in the Benton Hotel redevelopment project continues the successful redevelopment momentum with the town and East Roanoke County. The project facilitates needed infrastructure improvements in the central business district and supports the service industry, such as restaurants and wedding venues, sports and special events, and retains visitor spending in the community. Staff recommends approval of the Memorandum of Understanding between Roanoke County and the town of Benton. We also have members of council here with us today and town council, and I believe Mayor Gross has asked to say a word on behalf of the project. Mayor?
Just a few words, Mayor, just a few words.
Thank you, Ms. Luke. I hear you, Mr. Chairman. He often introduces me in Benton. That's usually what it says. And now a few words from the mayor. And I always try to adhere to that. I do want to thank my friends, our vice mayor is with us today, and of course, Councilmember Stovall, as well as our assistant town manager, Cody Sexton. And we just wanted to come over and thank you folks for considering this hotel redevelopment project in Benton. We think it'll be a great project for both Roanoke County and the town of Benton. This will be our 7th major project together, so really excited about the partnership. Do want to thank you for that partnership. It's been great over the past few years. It's really been something that's helped the entire county by helping East Roanoke County. So thank you folks for what you're doing. One last thing too, I want to thank our staff in the town of Vinton as well as Roanoke County. They've worked hard on this project as well as the 6 previous projects. And I might mention too, you know, there's a lot of work goes on between our staffs every day, not just these projects, but every day. And I think it's a great benefit to our citizens. So thank you, folks. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. See, Mr. Chairman, that was just a few words, right?
I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, folks.
Any questions for Ms. Luke?
I have an off-the-wall question. How many floors is the hotel going to be? We're talking about height on buildings coming up later this afternoon. Just wondered.
We're estimating 3 to 4, but we don't know yet. The developer needs to evaluate the property, and this is where they'll actually start spending money to determine what their capability is on the site.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Just a comment. It's a welcome economic development project. Many people have gone to many of the wedding venues and have indicated that they're staying in the city or else further out, and now they won't have to go so far. And same is true with Explorer Park. So this is a win-win for our region. Thank you.
Well, and to follow that up, Mr. Acid, who was on our board before, he kept saying that, you know, libraries will never generate economic development. Well, I like to publicly say he's wrong. Because in, I guess, help me out, Mayor, with 2015, we opened the new library there on Pollard. And, you know, since then, we've put McAdoo's in the old library, Rolney Cook and Weenberg. All 3 of those properties were government owned are now back on the tax roll. And they're all thriving. Okay. Then, of course, recently we've done the Vineyard Station, the Gish Mill, and now we're here talking about the hotel. And I think it's done very well in the redevelopment of the Vinton area. I'm very proud of what the council is doing, Mayor, and your leadership. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the former town manager, Barry Thompson, who worked very hard on that for a number of years before he decided to retire on us last year. But anyway. With that said, if there's no other comments or questions, I would like to make a motion to approve item D2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Thank you. Item D3 is a revised resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Roanoke, Virginia, declaring its intention to reimburse expenditures from the proceeds of a financing of cost associated with Weenberg High School renovations. Lori Gearhart, our Director of Finance and Management Services. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Roanoke County School Board awarded a contract for the Weenberg High School renovations on November 12, 2020. Since then, the costs have increased by $7,441,540, and the Roanoke County School Board approved the revised contract on June 1, 2021. A revised capital improvement plan was approved on June 10th to remove funding off of the renovations plan for W.E. Cundiff and Glen Cove Elementary projects and added it to the Weenberg High School renovation. Due to the increase in the cost, Resolution 011221-2, approved on January 12, 2021, by the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors, which declared its intent to allow the Roanoke County School Board to reimburse current expenditures from the future bond proceeds, needs to be revised with the updated contract amount. The revised resolution before you will allow the county to include the additional expenditures that will soon be made on the project to renovate Weenberg High School from the future bond proceeds. The revised resolution was approved on the consent agenda at the school board work session meeting held on July 13, 2021. Staff recommends approval of the revised resolution.
Questions?
Prices have gone up, unfortunately.
And just to clarify, we're letting them borrow future money. Okay.
We'll be doing, it's our intent, Rebecca and I have been in conversations with Susan Peterson, who is their Director of Finance, and we are planning at this point to participate in the fall VPSA bond issuance. So we will be bringing more items for your approval in the near future.
Okay.
And the bond
And it
amount-
is their turn, if you look at the debt
Right.
schedule and our plan, it is their turn to borrow.
And so they're using 2 years of 12 million, which is what, 22.4 for this bond issue? And what interest rate do you anticipate at this time? We don't know whether it'll be there in October.
We are in the very preliminary stages. As a matter of fact, we just got the schedule from the VPSA just this past week, so I'll be honest with you, at this point, I don't really know. We're in the very early stages of that, so hopefully they'll stay good.
Any other questions? Okay. Then I will make a motion to approve item D3.
I'll second, Mr.
A
Chairman.
second by Ms. Hooker. Madam Clerk, you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item E is first reading of ordinances. Item E1 is an ordinance approving a lease with Eagle America LLC for placement of county communications and information technology infrastructure on 12 o'clock Knob. Susan Slough, Assistant Director of Communications and Information Technology.
Good afternoon. This lease allows us to place fire and rescue paging equipment on 12 o'clock Knob, which is vital to their communications. Staff has recommended and requests approval of the first reading and set the second for the August 10th meeting.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the first reading and schedule second reading for August the 10th, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hooker. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item E2 is an ordinance authorizing the granting of a new 310 square foot drainage easement to the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County on property owned by Stephen R. Steinling. I hope I said that right. The second, located at 303 Vista Avenue for the purpose of drainage improvements. This will be in the Hollins Magisterial District. I'd like to welcome Tarek Munir, our Director of Development Services. Welcome, Tarek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, member of the board. You have before you a request to accept the drainage easement, as the chairman mentioned. What I distributed to you, this is the substitutions of the plat. I think the plat that made it to the agenda was a duplicate of the next item. So this is the appropriate, the right plat. Basically, the item here requests the board to approve the first reading of this easement. The easement is for the purpose of improving the drainage in the Windsor Hill Magisterial District. The owners of the property is willing to donate or give an easement to the county of 15-foot wide strip.
I'm showing this is in the Hollins District, 303 Vista Avenue. Item E2. Is my agenda incorrect?
I think on the agenda it's Windsor Hill.
Sorry, we're on 3, but it's
3 is Windsor Hills.
Yeah, this will be for item E3, the one he passed out.
I think you passed out the wrong plat map.
Yes. Then I'm confused. Sorry. Mr. Chairman, can you read again the?
Yeah, item E2 on my agenda is an ordinance authorizing 310 square feet easement, and this is owned by Stephen Steinling at 303 Vista Avenue for the purpose of drainage improvements.
Okay. Apologize, when I printed it as E3. So, my apologies.
No problem.
The agenda, I mean, the plat I gave you is for the other item. This particular request also requests the board to accept the easement. of 310 square foot easement in the Holland Magisterial District in order to improve the drainage in the area that was designed and built back in 1960s. The county staff has been working with the Virginia Department of Transportation and agreed upon that VDOT will provide the new structures in the area, and the staff of Roanoke County will perform the construction. This will have no impact on the fiscal impact on the county as of this year, and even in the future, we'll continue to maintain the easement using our normal development services budget. The staff recommend approval of the first reading and schedule a second reading for August 10 with the public hearing. I'll be glad to address any questions you might have.
Any questions? Mr.
Mr.
North?
Chairman, I make a motion, we approve item E2 for the first reading and schedule second reading for August 10th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And statement.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking through our board agenda, and E2 and E3 are actually switched. I'm actually looking at them. So he started reading because I see what you're seeing, what you're reading now. So they were switched as I look at the PDF right now. So
Okay.
just it doesn't affect my second. I just wanted to make that note.
So I think it's probably paperwork done, and I was going by what I printed.
Yeah, you're right. E2 on the PDF is. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a motion and a second for item E2. This is what's in the Hollands Magisterial District. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Now, item E3 is an ordinance authorizing the granting of a new 15-foot drainage easement to the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County on property owned by Fred L. Haynes and Terry K. Haynes, located at 7186 Bent Mountain Road for the purpose of drainage improvements, and this is in the Windsor Hills Magisterial District. Again, Mr. Manier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will repeat myself again. It's the same kind of drainage easement that we would like to obtain. The owners agreed to grant the easement of a strip of 15-foot easement along their properties, and that will help alleviate the pressure and the flooding that normally happens on the adjacent property. The communications took place with the Department of Transportation, Virginia Department of Transportation. They will provide all the necessary means for materials, and the county staff will perform the constructions. There's no impact on our fiscal impact this year. We will continue to maintain that in the future as part of our program. The staff recommends approving the first reading and schedule the second reading and public hearing for August 10th, 2021. I'll be glad to address any questions.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Manier, looking at the plat you just handed out to us,
Yes, sir.
it appears that the easement clips a corner of the home that's on the property?
Just
Is that a problem?
adjacent- No, it's just adjacent to the building. It's not going to be anything underground. This is just an easement, so we will be able to work machineries around.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Radford, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I will. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the first reading of E3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item E4 is an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of 1/2 interest in 3 parcels of real property containing approximately 34 acres adjacent to Explorer Park located in Roanoke County and in Bedford County, and authorizing the execution of a purchase agreement, a deed of conveyance, and other documents necessary to accomplish the acquisition of this real estate. I'd like to recognize our Parks Planning and Development Manager, Lindsay Webb.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. Before you today is the first reading of an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of a 1/2 interest in 3 parcels of land contiguous to Explore Park that total about 34 acres and are located in Bedford and Roanoke counties. The ordinance includes requests for the board to authorize execution of a purchase agreement, deeds of conveyance, and any other documentation necessary to accomplish the acquisition of this real estate. The 3 parcels are located north of the Roanoke River within the boundaries of Explore Park. The parcels are co-owned by the Virginia Recreational Facilities Authority as well as Betty W. Mays, who each own a 1/2 interest in each of the 3 parcels. 2 of the parcels are located in Bedford County and 1 of the parcels is located in Roanoke County, as shown in the map that's included in your board report. For a little background on this project, Mrs. Mays had approached Roanoke County in 2018 requesting that staff consider acquiring her 1/2 interest in those 3 parcels. Following these discussions, Roanoke County staff did submit a grant application to the Virginia Outdoors Foundation, which was awarded in the amount of $165,450. This grant was appropriated by the Board of Supervisors in 2020. The grant agreement is included in your board report, and this was executed in early 2021. Since this time, county staff have been negotiating with Mrs. Mays on a purchase agreement that is included in your board report, which is a requirement by VOF for the grant criteria, and this also gives Roanoke County a measure of protection for the due diligence items that are required for the property acquisition, such as a survey, an appraisal, title reports, and environmental assessments. Rachel Lauer is here with the Roanoke County Attorney's Office, and she has prepared the deeds of conveyance, which are included in your board report, and she has also drafted the purchase agreement for the project. Just one note on the deeds, that there will be revisions needed to include specific legal descriptions once the plat is made for the property, and the deeds may need to be adjusted to include necessary open space and forestry management restrictions, which are required with the Virginia Outdoors Foundation. So we would request that you keep these considerations into effect for the execution of these deeds. Regarding the fiscal impact, the VOF grant does cover 100% funding for the project, for the property acquisition, including all the due diligence items needed to acquire the property that I mentioned earlier. The grant funds do have a cap. We will have to conduct an appraisal for these 3 properties. So the VOF grant does have restrictions and a cap based on the appraisal amount. We have requested and negotiated with the purchase agreement with Mrs. Mays that based on the respective Bedford and Roanoke County 2021 real estate assessments, the purchase agreement has been drafted to offer her 1/2 of the amount of each of the 3 parcels plus $10,000. And should the appraisal not come in high enough to cover the property acquisition costs, staff have included in the board report to pull money from the recreation fee class to cover in the amount of $10,000 to cover this amount. Roanoke County proposes to manage these parcels as part of Explore Park, so they'll remain forested and used for recreation purposes. The Virginia Recreational Facilities Authority Board of Directors has been briefed on this property acquisition, and they are in agreement to co-own the property with Roanoke County, as well as share in the open space easements that will be needed later for the project. So with that, staff are requesting approval of the first reading, scheduling the second reading for August 10th. And Doug Blunt and Rachel Lauer are here, part of our project team, and are happy to answer any questions you may have about this acquisition.
Any questions? Mr. Radford?
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago in our last meeting, I made a comment about the adventure plan that's at Explore Park. So is this property in that future plan of the adventure plan?
Yes, sir. When the adventure plan was completed, it did include all of the 1,100 acres that are owned by the VRFA and that are under the 99-year lease with Roanoke County.
Okay.
Mr. Mahoney?
Either Ms. Lauer or Ms. Webb, knowing in the past some of the environmental issues that have accompanied other property acquisitions around Explore, I know you still have to have that performed, but from what you've roughly seen so far, do you anticipate any environmental issues popping up on that assessment?
take a stab at that response. We will be conducting a phase 1 environmental. The land has frontage on the Roanoke River. One of the parcels is split by the railroad tracks. So there is a Norfolk and Southern Railroad easement on that property. But other than that, the land is pretty steep, and there's some streams that kind of run through the property, and, you know, one of them is accessible from a residential subdivision in Bedford County, so we're not anticipating any.
So you haven't seen a whole bunch of tires
No,
illegally
sir.
dumped?
No, sir. We're not aware of any.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the first reading and schedule second reading for August the 10th, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. North. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item F is a second reading of ordinances. Item F1 is an ordinance approving a public utility easement to Roanoke Gas at 2121 and 2131 Cardinal Park Drive. This will be in the Vinton Business Park. Mr. Doug Blunt, Director of General Services and Parks and Recreation and Tourism. You need a little bit longer title.
We'll work on it, sir.
We'll work on that. Is there any changes since first reading?
No, sir, been no changes.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Blunt? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve item F1. Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item F2 is an ordinance accepting and appropriating $355,064 in grant funding from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management to the county's grant fund for technology upgrades to the county's NG 911 public safety answering points, and to reallocating $95,000 from the Communication and IT Administrative Fund and $65,959.32 from the Communication Shop Fund to the Grant Fund to further finance such technology upgrades. Susan Slough.
There have been no changes.
No changes. Do I have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item G is public hearing and second reading of ordinances. Item G1 is an ordinance amending the Roanoke County Code by amending Chapter 8.1, erosion and sediment control. Again, Tarek Munir.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Since last meeting with the board, we have not heard any objections from the development community. There has been no changes in the report. The only thing that I would like to ask is to clarify the effective, when the ordinance will be effective. We don't have any preference to recommend. It can be effective immediately. Normally, development takes time to develop land and provide plans, and we have put together a good presentation that shows that, it's pre-designed or plans that was developed in the past prior to this ordinance will be exempt. So the recommendation is please approve the second reading of this ordinance of amending chapter 8.1 after your public hearing. Be glad to address any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, I will open for a public hearing. Madam Clerk, I have no one signed up to speak.
No, sir, I don't either.
We're done with the phone thing. Good. All right, then I will now close the public hearing. Are there any further questions for Tarek? If not, I will make a motion to approve item G1 with adding that it would go into effect immediately.
Thank you, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item G2 is an ordinance amending Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 and 5 of the Roanoke County zoning ordinance. Mr. Thompson, our Director of Planning.
All right, see if it'll work this time.
Maybe Jill can come help you.
See if I have my touch. Come on. It's open. All right.
You talk.
I'm prepared to talk without having it. As you all aware, we work with the Planning Commission to review our ordinances and from time to time come with a packet of amendments to you. So the Planning Commission has been working on these amendments since January for the past 6 months. So kind of highlight the proposal. So the proposed amendments would correct inconsistencies, would update information, would add, revise, and delete definitions. They would also add, revise, and delete regulations. So the proposed amendments would amend Section 30-14, amendments to the ordinance, which is our rezoning section in Article 1. We add definitions for processing or manufacturing, as well as slaughterhouse. We also amend the definition for industry type 1, and we delete the definition for meat packing and related industries in Article 2. We amend the maximum height limitation for principal structures in R3. Oh, there we go. We'll get to that part. Well, I'll go back. All right, so they are proposed in all 5 articles. As has been, we do have new revised and deleted regulations for, like I said, 30-14. We deal with food processing. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the height in R3, agritourism, home occupations, multifamily dwellings, and off-street parking and signs. Talk about the process that it got approved. So the amended special use permit section was amended by you all in September of 2019. The proposed amendments include minor grammar changes that need to be updated. There's a defined set of factors for staff, the Planning Commission, and the board to consider in making decisions on applications for zoning ordinance amendments. These factors are mirrored on language taken directly from the state code. And there's a catch-all factor, number 10, dealing with any other matter reasonably related to the public necessity, convenience, and general welfare or good zoning practice. We have a defined timeline for staff to process applications. This is similar to the special use permit section. Defined timeline for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation, which is 100 days. It's currently 90 days. You're just taking the 10 days that staff is reviewing it and adding it to the 90. And then a defined timeline for the board to make a final decision, which is 12 months, which is tied to state code. Food processing, currently there are no uses in the zoning ordinance that deal with food processing other than meat packing and related industries. So what's being proposed is that we're going to add a definition for processing and manufacturing, as I mentioned earlier, amending the industry type 2 definition to include food processing elements as part of that definition, adding definition for slaughterhouse, and then we delete the definition for meat packing and related industries, and then we amend I2. We're basically just replacing meat packing and related industries with slaughterhouse. And so we're adding slaughterhouse and deleting meat packing and related industries. So height regulations are R3. Currently, it's 45 feet in our ordinance. There is no provision to increase height. There are several other sections in our ordinance in R4, C1, C2, in our industrial districts that have this provision that if you're adjacent to R1, R2, you can increase every foot in height. You just add 2 feet to the rear and side setback. So the proposed amendments would add that language to the R3 and allow it to go from 45 feet up to 60 feet if you're adjacent to R1 or R2. If you're not adjacent to R1, R2, you could go up to 60 feet in R3, so that's a countywide provision. Then in the study areas of 419 Town Center, Holland Center, and Oak Grove, the maximum height would be 75 feet or 65 feet above structured parking, whichever is greater. Again, if you did want to maximize, go higher than that maximum height, you would have to go through the special use permit process to increase that any further. Agritourism, we currently allow agriculture as a permitted use in both the I-1 and I-2 zoning districts, so both of our industrial districts. The proposed amendment would add agritourism as a by right use in I-1 and I-2, but there would be a use and design standard that states that the principal use of the property shall be agriculture. So if there is existing land that's being used for agricultural in those districts, they could then do agritourism on those properties. Home occupations. So the proposed amendments, you know, if you remember from the last set of amendments, we did some to our home beauty barber salon, and we're trying to mirror some of that. So we do allow pet grooming as a home occupation with certain standards. One customer at a time, maximum of 8 animals. Activities take place only indoors. We're adding a square footage provision. Currently, we have the 10% or 25% threshold, but we're adding 250 or 500 feet, so they can take whichever is greater. And again, we have 2 different types of home occupations based on the zoning district that they're located in. We also will allow home occupations in accessory structure for the type 1. We currently allow it in type 2 and for our home beauty and barber salon. And remove some of the customer limits that we have in place for some of the applied arts. For multifamily dwellings, our current density regulations for R3 and R4 show them for both townhouse and multifamily. So for R3, we currently have 12 for both townhouse and multifamily. In R4, we have 18 dwelling units for townhouses and 24. So the conversation with the Planning Commission was, should there still be that 6 dwelling unit per acre difference in R3. They agreed to that. So it would increase the density of multifamily from 12 to 18 per acre in R3. In the town study areas, we also have the provision in C1 and C2 where you can do 50% of multifamily as part of that use. That would be increased to 75% in the reimagined plans study areas. Off-street parking, again, part of what we were looking at when we were going through these regulations were to simplify our regulations to some degree, update and provide some flexibility. Those will deal with the location of parking, the number of parking spaces required, shared parking, our stacking spaces and drive-through facilities, and landscaping. So for location of parking, we increased the distance from 500 to 750 feet. Also provide, allow the zoning administrator to increase distance if sufficient evidence is provided. For the number of parking spaces required, in the study areas, we give the zoning administrator some flexibility to reduce parking spaces if documentation is provided by the applicant showing the need or previous uses that have those same parking standards that would allow a reduction. Minimum parking required table. So we removed uses that had no parking requirement. We consolidated uses with similar parking requirements. We updated the standards. We simplified the standards to a 1,000 square foot standard throughout, and then we added uses that had been added in the ordinance over time but hadn't been added to the parking table. For shared parking, we added notification requirement if joint use agreement is discontinued. We removed the parking study requirement details. Again, we increased the distance from 500 feet to 750 feet. We allow the zoning administrator to reduce the amount of parking required among different land uses if documentation is provided, and remove percentage reductions to required parking for shared parking as well. Stacking spaces in drive-through facilities and parking lot landscaping. The proposed amendment would take the requirement to have a bypass lane of the drive-through facility. We currently have that. They can have one, but it's not making it a requirement. And then we add a site distance requirement for landscaping where 2 or more parking lots intersect. Signs, lastly, How we calculate allowable sign area on corner lots. We would exempt shopping centers exceeding 250,000 square feet from the 50% of the total road frontage on the side street. So they would get the full benefit of 100% calculating the sign area. And then we would amend the special signage districts if they maximized their square footage, that each business would be allowed 100 square feet of attached signage. Planning Commission held a public hearing on July 6th. We had one citizen who called in during the public hearing, supported and thanked the Planning Commission for the amendment to the dog grooming as a home occupation. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the proposed amendments. You all held a public work session back in June, and the first reading of this on July 13th, and today is the public hearing. So a couple changes to the draft. So there have been amendments to 30-14. This was included in the first reading. So between the work session and the first reading, we refer to section 30-14A3. And that's really getting at the timeframes they're dealing with a rezoning application. There are three ways that an amendment to the ordinance could take place. One is resolution of the board. Second is motion of the commission. Those are typically done for text amendments. And then the third one is by a petition of an applicant. So that's what that reference is to, that the timeframes are really referred to is somebody submitting a rezoning application. The height regulations are three. For both the, we added including rooftop mechanical equipment to several provisions of the 75 feet and 65 feet, or 60 feet, or 65 feet, I should say. Because that is how we would calculate it, so we just made that clarification. And then the parking landscape regulations, there are added parameters to several sections, given the zoning administrator discretion. So it gives them parameters that they have to consider when making those determinations. And I think that was brought up at the work session as well. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have.
Any questions? Mr. Ranger?
Yeah, Mr. Thompson, talking about R3 zoning, what's the percentage of R3 land that is zoned in the county right now?
Okay. So I thought this would come up. So we do have, went back to a table, so we have 920 acres in the county as a whole. That is zoned R3. That makes up 0.6% of the county.
0.6.
Correct. So 920 acres. So I'll answer another question. We also looked at, if you look at the reimagined study areas, there's only 110 acres. And that's zoned R3 that is in the county. So there's the 60 feet, which is countywide, that'd be 810 acres. Up to 75 feet would be 110. There are 90 acres in 419, 20 acres in Hollins, and 0 in Oak Grove. But we left all three study areas in case somebody comes in to rezone, and we just left it that way. So most of, if you can kind of glance at R3, most of the R3 land has been developed. A lot of the R3 that's not developed, a good portion of those have conditions on them. So this does not take away any profit conditions that would be on property. For example, I could talk about the 4 parcels in Hollins. 3 are behind Northwest Hardware. Those all are conditioned for a townhouse development. The 4th property is owned by Hollins University, where they have their housing. Those are the 4 properties in Hollins of the 20 acres. The other 90 is in, like I said, 419. So it's mainly the land that's behind, on 419, South Peak, Old Heritage, on the ridge. And again, that's what we try to look at is the complications of developing in that area, realizing that we didn't want development to spread out, because obviously then you're having more of an impact, you're building more walls, you're putting more, so the realization that probably structured parking is going to probably be needed to develop, realizing that that's pretty costly. We wanted to make it, make the adjustments necessary that we thought that somebody could actually build a project. in that area. So that's why it's kind of the way it is. So,
Yeah, so a follow-up question. So if we go into the Oak Grove area, the 419 Reimagined Hollins, in order to go to 60 or 75 feet, it'd have to go through a special use permit, correct?
no,
It would not?
no. What we're saying is that it's the 75 feet in those areas, you can go up to 75 feet or 65 feet above structured parking by right.
Okay.
If you want to go higher than 75 feet or 65 feet above structured parking, then you would need a special use permit.
Okay.
No, this is trying to make it by right so people don't have to go through that process.
Right. I knew the answer. I just wanted you to clarify it.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? All right. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. And I do have one signed up to speak, and it's Mr. William Scaff. Welcome, and just reminders of 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Time frame.
William Scaff, 4815 Farmington Place Court, Roanoke, Virginia, 24018. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I respectfully ask that the board oppose changes to Roanoke County Code Article 3, Section 3045-3, Site Development Regulations, C, Height Limitations, and Article 4, Section 308211, Multifamily Dwelling, D and F. The current height limit of 45 feet is high enough, and the current maximum density of 12 dwelling units per acre is large enough without multi-use accounting for 75% of the gross floor area per site to avoid jeopardizing the suburban and rustic character of the Hollins and Oak Grove communities. Keeping town center density smaller will mitigate the impact of the mistakes about to be made. Mistake number one, assuming that residents are really aware of the effect on landscape and view sheds of the bulk of a 75-foot-high building that stretches a half mile and width that covers nearly 3/4 of the site. No drawing posted on a bulletin board can convey this oppressive massiveness, but they will get the idea when they stand next to it or drive by it or try to see over it from afar. Once these zoning changes take effect, they will permanently change the character of a community. The damage cannot be stopped until zoning is restored to reasonable size limits. Once buildings are built, they cannot be revised downward to what is acceptable. Mistake number two, assuming that the businesses these communities desire and expect will locate sequentially in the same building when many require freestanding roadside buildings as part of their brand. This is why the latest businesses to join the Tanglewood Mall are not locating inside the main building. Massive residential structures will crowd these businesses out. Mistake number three, assuming that retail will locate there when most shopping is done online, in-person purchasing decreasing each year, and brick-and-mortar outlets continually closing. Mistake number four, assuming that restaurants will fill in the gaps when only so many restaurants can be supported in a particular area, especially in the COVID-19 pandemic era. Mistake number five, assuming that bars will fill in the gaps where restaurants won't, putting more drunk drivers on the road when the state is adding buzz drivers through the legalization of marijuana. Mistake number six, fulfilling the Obama-Biden density imperative intended to destroy suburbs just in time for the Biden administration's distribution of illegal immigrants from the southern border throughout the country, including criminal aliens and gang members, and providing them financial support for food and shelter, not even available to legal immigrants. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up to speak, Madam Clerk.
I don't have, excuse me, I don't have anyone else either.
All right, then I will close the public hearing and ask the board if there's any other questions.
I don't have any other, excuse me. I have no questions. I was going to make a motion, so go ahead.
I have no questions. I guess purpose of debate, I understand some of the concerns that have been raised with the amendments. And I guess in my mind, I viewed the amendments very positively in that it provided greater flexibility to the private property owner so that he or she could develop his property to the maximum extent that we would allow, and we've increased what that maximum extent could be. So I see this as benefiting the private property owner. I see it relaxing many of the more restrictive provisions we had in our ordinance, particularly with respect to height, multifamily development, and parking. I think it gave more flexibility, it provides more flexibility to the private property owner. So I would support the initiatives. I thank staff and the county attorney's office to put some parameters in there so that when our zoning administrator starts making modifications to some of the requirements, that there is some guidance so that no one could later come back and challenge that action as being arbitrary and capricious. So I would support the amendments and yield to the supervisor from Catawba to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would concur, Mr. Mahoney, that this does give more flexibility to our citizens and their property rights. And I have even talked to a couple of citizens from my district in particular, not regarding R3, but about agricultural districts and their ability to move forward after this is passed. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of item G2.
I do have one question for Mr. Thompson. When will these become effective?
If I'm not mistaken, they're upon passage.
That is, that is correct, Mr. Peters. It states in the ordinance that this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption.
I just wanted to verify.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Madam.
And a comment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney and Ms. Hooker, for bringing that information up. I just want y'all to know that we currently have hotels in Roanoke County. There are 4 floors, all over the county already. And so while our those temporary residents get to come in and enjoy those views, it would be nice to finally have options for our permanent residents to be a little higher up and see the great views that we have from the county floor. And I do see it as a positive to the amendments, giving us a lot more flexibility, and it's going to make the land a little more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Just want you to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I have a first and a second, a motion and a second. Can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item H, are there any appointments that need to be given to the clerk? Okay. Item I is a consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted in one resolution in the formal forms listed below. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the agenda? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item J is citizens' comments and communications. I do have one citizen to speak. It's Chris McLeod. Welcome to our meeting. Just a reminder, we have a 3-minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris McLeod, 165 Tinkerview Drive, Cloverdale, which means I'm out of Botetourt. I've been there since 1996. Previous 25 years of my life, I was a Roanoke County resident. I'm a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, Fincastle Rifles 1326 out of Roanoke, where I served as a Color and Honor Sergeant, camp historian. I'm also a former candidate for Virginia Division Commander, Sons of Confederate Veterans 2006, as well as a member of the Military Order of Stars and Bars, which are the descendants of officers of Confederate forces. I'm here in opposition to any action taken against the Confederate Memorial as listed in the Roanoke Times recently and has been discussed in the Roanoke Times recently. I am the coordinator of several events that have taken place in Botetourt since our monument has been put under threat. And we're pretty much tired of this taking place everywhere. I ask you, stand against the people that are attempting to remove this monument, regardless of the fact of their musing, their position in their courtroom and the Roanoke Times is a bully pulpit to try to intimidate and coerce actions that they cannot take that would actually be in violation of Section C of 15.2-1812, which is the Monuments to War law that Virginia passed just last year. He's overstepping his bounds, and it's your decision to make, and it honestly should go to the public before a public referendum and allow the public to decide. We're tired. We're sick and tired of our politicians in Richmond and our localities trying to destroy the history of our localities, our state, and our nation, and we've had enough. Like I said, I coordinated and organized 3 events. In the middle of November and February and April, getting 60 people in the middle of the pandemic to come out because they were not happy with this, it's a little something. We're talking about doing it in Roanoke County so this judge can see that not everybody agrees with what's coming out of Roanoke College and what needs to be done with a section of a corner of a former courthouse of this county. They need, and y'all, we encourage y'all to leave the history and this monument alone. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no one else signed up to speak.
I don't have any more.
And I'll move on to item K, reports. Is there a motion to receive and file our reports?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Madam Clerk, you call the roll?
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Item L is a report and inquiries of board members. Before we get started today, we have a special event that's taking place. Today is Mrs. Hooker's birthday. I would offer to sing, but I don't want to run everybody out of here. So we do want to wish you a happy birthday today.
Thank you.
And for our reports today, I'll start with the gentleman from Windsor Hills.
Thank
If
you,
you'd
sir.
like to sing for, go for it.
I'll pass. We did that nights ago. I think that's good, right?
Yeah, that's plenty. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to report, last week, along with you and Mr. North, we met with our legislators in regards to the special session that's coming up in August, and we met with them one-on-one, and we were able to talk to them about school capital funds, broadband funding, replenishing the unemployment trust fund, and the public hospital funding needs that we're hearing. And I want to give thanks to Peter Lubick and his staff for producing a nice little card there that has our legislative items on there. But we got to speak. I didn't speak in front of all of them, but it was a good time to let them hear our issues and the thing that we'd like them to address while they're having the special legislative session. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Mahoney.
Several things, Mr. Chairman. I want to report that the past week was a very good week for law enforcement in the Roanoke County and Roanoke Valley. Last Friday, on the 23rd, I had the pleasure to attend the police awards banquet. The county administrator and both our assistant county administrators were there. I think, as Mr. O'Donnell pointed out, I think we have better than 160 people who were there. They recognized a lot of our police officers who did great things. What really impressed me was there was a series of awards for our police officers who had saved people's lives. Not just stopping crime and stopping the bad guys and arresting the bad guys, but going forward and rescuing people and saving them and saving their lives. And that was very impressive. Today, we had 2 sessions. At 10 o'clock in the morning, we had a basic law enforcement graduation. It was very good. We had Gary Roach, who is the retired police chief from Pulaski, Gary, I've known Gary a long time. He used to be a Roanoke County Sheriff's Deputy and also Roanoke County Police Officer. He spoke. The sad thing was we only had 5 graduates, 3 police officers and 2 sheriff's deputies. With all of the unfortunate things that have afflicted our country over the last year and a half, it is more and more difficult to recruit good people to serve in law enforcement. We need more of them. We have a great need, and we have 5 good people who are coming on board now. Later in the afternoon at 1 o'clock, we had a graduation for our jailers, both in the Sheriff's Department and the Western Virginia Regional Jail Authority. With the board's consent, I've been your representative on the Regional Jail Authority. We had 2 classes there. They had to hold off the other class last year because of COVID. So I think we had, between the 2 departments, there were 27 graduates. So we're starting to fill some of those slots there. And then finally, I think all the board members received a copy of an email from Eddie Wells with the Regional Commission talking about how the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration is looking at $3 billion in supplemental funding under the American Rescue Plan. Remember, you people probably made the mistake and put me on the SEDS committee. And so I tried to work with the folks in the SEDS committee to come up with some priorities. One of the big priorities, of the $3 billion, $750 million is carved out for travel and tourism and outdoor recreation. And so I guess I'm kind of optimistic that we were able to include in the SEDS committee prioritization projects for Explore Park. And I guess I'm hoping that as we can move through this process, we can tap into some of those federal dollars and use them for some for Explore and other travel and tourism and outdoor recreation events. That, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. And now for Ms. Sutter.
Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of things I wanted to mention, and one is just a reminder to the citizens from my district that I will continue to advocate for full funding from our state legislators for the Catawba Hospital, and not just for the operations of the building, but also for the staff to meet adequate needs and continue to have conversations on the phone regarding those issues. I've met with a couple of citizens regarding their desire after feeling like there were limited options during a COVID year, that they're ready to plan for business, to plan for opening up and for starting new business, for moving real estate, and I really look forward to working with them. And the third thing is that I have been blessed far beyond what I deserve. I've got family here from, or this week, from Texas, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. Tonight I've got my sisters and my husband here tonight, so thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, too, have been participating in those legislative meetings, specifically with Senators Newman, Delegates Hitt, and McNamara. This session will address those special ARPA needs. They're going to try to figure out how to spend the money. But one of the items that is a priority for us doesn't appear to be a priority for the state of Virginia at this time, and that's helping our schools with their capital funding needs. That appears to be something that's been pushed downstream, and we'll find out what the School Committee on Modernization and Construction recommends, likely to be a budget item in the next governor's bill. And much of what we hope for in terms of school capital hinges on the November 2nd election of our next governor, as well as perhaps our legislature. Hopefully, there'll be a funding stream down that we can get benefit of, but I'm afraid that if the funding stream is in the form of a budget line item that is administered by the state of Virginia, I'm not sure how Roanoke County is going to fare out, because currently there is a tour going around the state of Virginia formed by the Rural School Coalition that's visiting different counties in different parts of the state, all the way from Warren County to southwest Virginia. I'd requested VACO include our Burton Center on that tour, and apparently the wheels of the tour had already started moving, and that has not occurred. But that nevertheless will not deter our efforts to try to move forward in this area. We do know that apparently it is the consensus of the chair of the Finance Committee, or excuse me, Appropriations in the House, that the state of Virginia help with funding for our capital needs for schools. However, the method that had been used was tabled in terms of a sales tax referendum. So we'll just see where this all hinges. But I can tell you this, that we need school capital funds. And as mentioned in the paper the other day, that's not what's going to be used for HVAC upgrades in our schools. It will not be used on new capital funding. So just to set that record straight. Also, on July 20th, I attended the Greater Williamson Road Area Business Association meeting, which was the first one in 15 months coming out of COVID. At that meeting, both Roanoke County and Roanoke City Police Chiefs spoke on crime, guns, and illegal activity in their areas. One piece of advice, a very simple piece of advice, was to lock your cars when they're parked. Unlocked vehicles are the leading source of stolen cars, as well as concealed weapons, which lead to those weapons getting in the wrong hands. And so with that said, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will too add that Ms. Hooker also was involved in those conversations with our delegates. And we've been trying to send the message from Roanoke County to our delegates and our senator. I was very disappointed, as Mr. North mentioned. I know that the governor, I think, indicated a couple days ago in the paper that he was only setting aside $250 million for, I think I'm right on that, for the school funding.
But not capital funding.
Yeah, but it's not capital funding, and you know, I think that's a drop in the bucket when you look at a $2.6 million surplus in the state of Virginia, plus $4.3 million in ARPA funding. That's nearly $7 billion to be spent, and that we can't find a way to address our capital school needs is it's pretty sad in my opinion. That's all I have. I'm gonna move on to item M, which is our closed session. We do now have two of those today. The first is I'm making a motion to move into closed session pursuant to Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711A3, to discuss or consider the disposition of publicly held real property that is presently used for park purposes, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. And Section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. Specifically, the board will discuss its pending class action suit against Monsanto, a former manufacturer and seller of polychlorinated, help me out with that.
PCBs.
There you go. That's what I keep them around for. So do I have a second on those closed meetings?
Second.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes. Now we will move to our closed session on the third floor. Thank you.